Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our topic is military assistance from US to Pakistan. When we see Pakistan got independence in 1947, USSR and the communist bloc and capitalist bloc, we joined. There were two superpowers, the capitalist bloc and communist bloc, USSR and the USA. We joined the capitalist bloc, as I told in my previous video, that we joined capitalist bloc due to two reasons. That one was the religious phenomena, and the other one was there was USSR did not establish his embassy here. When America wanted to secure this region, South Asian region and the Middle East, in February 1951, American policymakers recognized that an effective military defense would be in Turkey, Pakistan and Iran and the other areas. In mid-May, Brigadier General Henry that visited Pakistan, Brigadier General Henry remained in the American embassy in Karachi a few years back in 1951. Due to this, he was familiar to military leaders. He came here. The purpose to came here was to study the armed requirements in Pakistan. When we talk about the military assistance, we start from the 1954. On the 19 May of 1954, mutual defense assistance agreement was signed. That was between Pakistan and USA in Karachi. On 2nd April 1954, Pakistan and Turkey signed their contemplated treaty of friendly cooperation in Karachi. During 3 days visit of PM Muhammad Ali to Turkey, our Prime Minister met with the Turkish officials. They met to develop a mechanism for the military cooperation. When we signed the agreement of in 1954, the amount of that aid, military assistance aid, had not been made public. When we read that agreement of 1954, there was no provision for American bases in Pakistan. The discussion took place in secret. The original news described the negotiation of a military alliance involving the exchange of air bases for military equipments. But according to the intelligence sources, the assistant included, and that was the aircraft, the equipment for an armored divisions, thousands of American pilots and technicians. The main aim for that military assistance of 1954 was a setup towards better ensuring the security of the whole area of the Middle East and the other regions. In 1954, American-backed nationalist regime of Chiang Kai-shek in China that was defeated. It was a blow to US and a clear sign of communism expansion towards the South Asia and towards the Red Sea. In 1954, USA gave only 29.5 millions to the Pakistan, and that was greatly disappointed. At that time, then President Ayub Khan said that it would be better for Pakistan not to be involved in defense agreements with the United States. Pakistan signed the CETO in Manila in Philippines on 8 September 1954. The reason behind this agreement was to maintain the peace in the region and to facilitate regional economic cooperation. US limits its commitment to act only against communist aggression. The Zafrullah Khan gave threat to leave the territory if US refused to apply it to conflict between the Pakistan and India. Washington rejected its plea because it was interested to support in the war against India. India was considered important to Washington because of its different approaches to the world affairs. When we signed our agreements of CETO and CENTO with the US, our the prime objective of Pakistan was to counter that India, but the prime interest of US was to counter that communism expansion towards Middle East, towards the South Asia, and towards that Red Sea. When we talk about that and other military agreements we signed with the USA, that was the Baghdad Pact after the Iraqi Revolution in 1958. That the name of that Baghdad Pact was changed to CENTO. Now I elaborate what is that agreement of CENTO. Turkey and Iran, they led the foundation of Baghdad Pact for the mutual defense. They invited Pakistan to join, but Pakistan at the first time was electing to join without the inclusion of USA and its military. Pakistan signed the agreement CENTO on 23rd September 1955. This agreement provided a framework upon which a program could build around military and economic assistance. After the CENTO, the Baghdad Pact, and later it named as CENTO, we signed a bilateral defense agreement with the USA in 1959. US signed bilateral defense agreement with Pakistan. US agreed on help aggression against any of the country. As I said, that our prime objective, the main interest was, what the prime objective behind these agreements was to counter that India, because of the hostile behavior of the India towards Pakistan due to that Kashmir issue. Till now, we see that India is showing its hostile behavior towards Pakistan from the 1947 up to till now. US agreed on help aggression against any of the country. US appreciated at that time Pakistan as a faithful ally which secure US interest in this region. As I said, that US had interest in this region of South Asia, and Pakistan was the only country that was securing and the US interest here in South Asia. Pakistan attempted to invoke the provision of the agreement in 1965 and 71 war. US did not honor its obligation. We need the US. We need US in the 1961 5 and the 1971 war, but US did not support us. US stepped back, and we signed agreements to counter that India, but our interests were not secured. Our interests were not protected. When we see in 1952, the U2 incident was happened. In 1952, Pakistan provided bases to America in Peshawar for intelligence and surveillance purpose, the consequence of which resulted in U2 incident. It brought Pakistan direct confrontation with the Soviet Union, to the USSR. Uh, the spy plane was shot down by Russian, and pilot was arrested. The spy plane took photographs of Soviet atomic installations using Peshawar airfield. US called this base as a communication center and did not disclose its purpose. In later years, it was also to be known that this facility also used against China, and due to this incident, Russia threatened Pakistan that you are involved in this whole program, in this whole incident. You are directly involved. Uh, After that, USSR was expanding his area towards the Middle East, towards the South Asia. His motto was to reach towards the Red Sea. And when the USSR invaded Afghanistan, as I told before in the previous in my previous video, USSR invaded in Pakistan. When Soviet Union invaded in Afghanistan, Carter spoke to Pakistan President Ziaul. Carter, that time then president of USA, sat and assured him of his support and declared that US would honor the commitment of 1959 and work within its framework. But the track recorded was not good. Carter offered an aid package of about 400 millions to Pakistan, but F-16 Thunder was not included in that aid. President then President Ziaul Haq, rejected the limited offer and called it as peanut. Reagan, after that, Reagan won the presidency in 1980 and announced the package of $3.2 billion aid to Pakistan over a 5-year period. That was consist of 46 F-16 aircrafts, and Ziaul accepted that aid, but rejected the previous one of President Carter. The system of alliance begins to collapse. US support for Pakistan was intended to counter the threat from the communist countries, not from the India. But our main interest was to counter the India, and USA did not help us in 1965 war, in 1971 war. After Indian military invention in 1971, Pakistan left SEATO in November 1972. After the disintegration of USSR, there were sanctions imposed on Pakistan. When we talk about the sanctions in 1985, the Pessler Amendments bill was passed in the Senate of US, and to break down to stop the military alliance towards Pakistan, the economic aid that was coming from US to Pakistan, that was stopped, and threatened Pakistan not to continue your nuclear program. After that, from 1988 to 1997, there were 4 civil governments. The first one was of Bibi Benazir Bhutto government, and that was after that the Nawaz Sharif government, again Bibi came, and the last one was Nawaz Sharif government. After that, again dictatorship came in Pakistan. Pervez Musharraf take over the government in 1999. Again, US had interest in Pakistan after the 9/11 in 2001, when some militant groups, as said, that the Taliban groups and militant groups, where the Osama bin Laden was involved in 9/11, and Taliban government was involved in the 9/11 incident, and there about 3,300 or 3,000 American were killed in that incident. After 9/11, again US had interest in Pakistan, and US wanted to uh, defeat that Taliban group in Afghanistan. Once again showed her interest in Pakistan and asked Pakistan to help against the war on terror. Pakistan accepted and became the front line on the war against terrorism. The famous sentence of US Secretary of State was, "You are either with us or against us." US used Pakistani land and air bases for a strike on different groups that were, as I said, the Al-Qaeda and Taliban group in Afghanistan. As we know, USA imposed sanctions on Pakistan in 1998, and when Pakistan in 1985. In 1998, when Pakistan tested its nuclear weapon. After 9/11, when US needed help Pakistan, she established good relations with Pakistan to counter terrorism. The Pakistan, after Cold War, Cold War between the US and USSR, once again become the alliance of US in war on terror. Pakistan, for the first time, deploy its military in tribal areas after the independence in 1947. It happened for the first time due to US interest in Pakistan. Because we were on the front line against the war on terror. Pakistan got economic aid but loses lives of many citizens, more than 50,000. Among these 50,000, the 15,000 were the security forces, and about 35,000 were the citizens of Pakistan. Pakistan became the member of NATO, and Pakistan became that part of that game of war against the war on terror. For the assistance, economic assistance, military assistance, we did many good things towards for the protection of US in the South Asia. As we see in past, we helped USA against the USSR in the Cold War against USSR, and again in 2001 we helped again USA to counter the terrorism in Afghanistan, and we lost many lives due to that terrorism. But the aid is not but our aid was not given properly to the Pakistan. Still we are suffering of that war against terrorism. That was my lecture on the military assistance and economically the aid assistance from the US from 1947 up to till now. That was my lecture. If you have any question, you may ask in the comment box, and I will give my email in the description. You may ask. You may send me a mail. You can ask any question. I will satisfy you, inshallah. Thank you.